Welcome to Cal's Cinema. This is The Cell.
Naughty worm.
Well, it's the new year, and after you've had your fill of Santas and Scrooges, then maybe a psychological horror is just the thing to wash away the last of that Christmas cheer. 2000's The Cell is now 25 years old at the time of making this video, but was it ahead of its time with some of its ideas that it presented, or are its flaws just too jarring to overlook? We'll look at whether the film has gotten better with age, as well as giving The Cell the usual score out of 10. And as we start off our first video of the year, I'd like to thank everyone again one last time for a great 2024 on the channel, and for your views and comments. If you're one of the 99% that watch but haven't decided to subscribe yet, and if you find that this video changes your mind, then take a deep breath, relax, and hit the button to be reminded of all future videos.
Response signal. Functioning.
Back at the turn of the millennium, films about altered mental states were all the rage, with 1999's Fight Club and The Matrix offering viewers original stories on virtual reality and mental illness, respectively. Before anyone comes at me in the comments, I know that's not what Fight Club is really about, but Edward Norton's character in the film is inarguably mentally ill. Yes? Okay. So, when The Cell, which was written by Mark Protosevich and directed by Tarsem Singh, was released in the year 2000, audiences were primed for more dark, mind-bending action, and on paper the film sounded like a recipe for success, with its blend of gritty serial killer, detective thriller, and high fantasy psychological horror elements, as well as captivating visuals and a talented cast that included an in-demand star in the role of the main character.
No one will hurt you. Edward, is that you?
Jennifer Lopez's Catherine Deane is a child psychiatrist, or is it psychotherapist? Maybe it's both. Anyway, prior to the events of the film, Catherine has been chosen, apparently above more experienced candidates, for the role of intra-mind therapist. At least that's the name I came up with for what she does in my notes. Without getting too in-depth, Catherine basically uses a state-of-the-art experimental medical technology dubbed the Neurological Cartography and Synaptic Transfer System, or NCASTS maybe not, to enter the mind of her young comatose-like patient to communicate with him, to cure him of his forever dream by therapizing him. The coma is somehow caused by a very rare, entirely made-up form of schizophrenia, by the way. Sound far-fetched? Well, that's because it is, and even more so back for the audiences in the year 2000. Where the setup for the film takes a turn early on is when Catherine is approached by the FBI to help crack a case of a serial killer abducting and murdering young women, part of which involves slowly drowning them in a glass cell, hence that title. And therefore the movie is not in fact a Dragon Ball Z spin-off film, which a younger me was very disappointed to find out. With the help of Vince Vaughn's special agent Peter Novak, Catherine has her work cut out for her on entering the horrifying mind of villain Karl Rudolf Stargher, played menacingly by Daredevil's Kingpin and Full Metal Jacket's Private Leonard Lawrence, Vincent D'Onofrio. All of this, from the start of the film to the first venture into the killer's mind, happens in the first 40 minutes of the hour 47 runtime, and the bulk of the film concerns exploring Stargher's psyche, as Catherine and Peter are in a race against the clock to find clues on the whereabouts of Karl's latest still alive for now victim, before she ends up like the others before her. Besides the three main characters of the film, the cast is packed with familiar faces. Most notable of these is Deane Norris, here as Cole, who is mostly known for playing ASAC Hank Schrader in Breaking Bad, of course, but before that was cast as some form of cop in literally everything. I'll let you research that one for yourself. RoboCops, the 2014 version, Chief Deane Marianne Jean-Baptiste stars as Dr. Miriam Kent, and assisting her is Dr. Kurt Connors from 2002 Spider-Man, Dylan Baker as Henry. Meet Joe Black's Drew. Jake Weber stars as Peter's FBI partner Gordon Ramsay. No, not that Gordon Ramsay.
It's raw. It's fucking raw.
Identity's Malcolm Reeves and future Jonathan Kent. Pruitt Taylor Vince gets a small role as Dr. Reed, and Peter Sarsgaard has an uncredited role as the boyfriend of Taras Subkoff's Julia, the latest victim of Stargher. And with that, it's probably a good time to include the usual spoiler warning, so if you've not seen The Cell and would like to check it out, do so and then come on back, because if you stay, there could be serious side effects for us both.
We've been through this 100 times, Catherine. It's too risky.
Why not? What do we have to lose?
Now that we can get further into The Cell, we can look at both where the film excels and where it falls short. It makes sense that the film would be nominated for Best Hair and Makeup at the Academy Awards, as Carl's manifestations within the dreamscape range from horrific to awe-inspiring, both in detail and even with how they interact with the set. The visuals of The Cell as a whole are a standout, with everything from areas within Stargher's dreamscape which take inspiration from various art pieces, to the Dracula armour-inspired suits that Catherine and Peter don to enter Carl's mind. It's lucky that the only two suits made for the experimental procedure happen to fit a 5'4" woman and a 6'5" man. I don't know, maybe they're super stretchy like some kind of superhero spandex.
It gets kinda itchy. It rides up in the crotch a little bit too.
But it's that very suspension of disbelief that can only go so far, especially in a film like The Cell, where outside of the NCASTS machine, the rest of the story is still very much grounded in reality. Schizophrenia, water-induced coma MacGuffin, Whelan's infarction aside. You see, the entire time and expense spent on the procedure could be avoided if Peter and Gordon, or anyone else in the case, had just been slightly better detectives in the first place. After Peter sees that Stargher's cell is made by Carver Industrial Equipment, the same company that produces the model of hoist they uncovered from under his house, he has Cole do some research and find that after the previous owner went bankrupt, Carl was appointed by the courts to look after the land. It seems like basic detective work in the first place to trace items purchased or acquired, in this case by the killer, just like they did with tracing Stargher's albino dog Valentine. This makes the involvement of the unconscious Carl feel less crucial than it should be, although when the less than 24-hour time frame in cracking the case is considered, perhaps this gives the neurological cartography and synaptic transfer system more agency. I don't know, you could decide for yourself on that one. Beyond that, the film is mainly carried by an impressive turn by Vincent D'Onofrio as serial killer Stargher. D'Onofrio switches between the split personalities of Carl's frightened true self and the twisted, idealized version of his killer self that he has dubbed Stargher King. The result is a masterful performance that has, from what I can tell, gone under the radar over the years and elevates the film beyond a serviceable effort by Vince Vaughan as Peter Novak and the half-asleep and half-assed attempt that Jennifer Lopez can muster in the main role.
No one should be treated like that.
Is that right? In what world do you live in?
So what's the verdict on The Cell? Well, if you can go along with some of the more far-fetched aspects of this blend of sci-fi and thriller, then you might find the exploration of both Carl Stargher's mind and his methodology to be the most watchable aspect of the film. It's certainly an original concept, which now years later might not seem quite as unrealistic, and it should be praised for its deeper exploration of a serial killer beyond just his crimes. Despite its thin and somewhat contrived plot, The Cell delivers on its fantastical exploration of the subconscious, with dazzling imagery and a layered, chilling performance from an on-form D'Onofrio. It's a film that deserves to be watched and rewatched for those 2 points alone, but ultimately The Cell still feels lacking overall and can't be scored anything higher than a 6.3 out of 10.
Oh, you're fucking kidding me. No, I'm not the kidding type.
So, what did you think of The Cell? Were you a fan of its psychological horror elements, or do you prefer your thrillers to be more true to life? You can let me know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe, and come back again to Cal Cinema.